Kripanidhi Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Pancharatna Prabhu. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanagana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you very much for attending Srila Prabhupada's Tirabhava ceremony. I was a young brahmachari, 1977. I was distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in Canada and Pacific Northwest USA, Seattle. So my temple president sent me to chant for Srila Prabhupada the first week of November. Many leaders and preachers were not there because we were gearing up for the Prabhupada Marathon, the book distribution, what we call Christmas Marathon, where there was an explosion of book distribution in the West, in North America and Western Europe, South America. So I arrived around the 7th of November, and we were all going into Srila Prabhupada's room, and we were chanting for Srila Prabhupada during the day. Prabhupada's godbrothers, Gaudiya Math members, they're all coming to offer their respects to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was lying there, and he would offer his apologies to all his godbrothers. Please forgive me if I ever offended you. There was one particular godbrother, Krishnadas Babaji, and he was always chanting. And he would come in the room and he would glorify that Srila Prabhupada was such a great acharya amongst all the acharyas. He had taken this Bhakti Yoga, this movement of Lord Chaitanya, outside of India and accomplished a great miracle. So he was glorifying Srila Prabhupada, and he was glorifying Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And Prabhupada was telling him, oh, some of my disciples are not so strong. But Krishnadas Babaji kept glorifying Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. So although Srila Prabhupada was terminally ill, he was lying there and speaking into the dictaphone. Jayadvaita Maharaj was holding the dictaphone to his mouth. And he was giving his purports, beginning of 10th canto. And he was saying, in a candid way, he was saying, I'm lying here, and all my adversaries, people around the world who didn't like the Hare Krishna movement and its success, he said they're all wondering how this old man is still beating on his drum. Prabhupada would make a candid statement. This old man is lying here still beating his drum. So we were all very optimistic that Prabhupada is going to come through this. He's going to survive it. And the Kaviraj was very focused on Srila Prabhupada's diet and so on. Bhakti True Maharaj, he was Prabhupada's attendant along with Jayadvaita Maharaj. They were attending to Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada was expressing a desire to go on a bullock cart ride around Govardhan Hill. And there were two groups. Hamsadutta, he was leading one, in charge of one group of devotees, and their philosophy was the spiritual master's order cannot be rejected. So we have to accept Prabhupada's order to take him on bullock cart. Lokanath Swami was organizing bullock cart. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he's on the other side of the aisle, and our group was saying, no, the Kaviraj is saying he cannot go on a bullock cart ride. He won't survive. So ultimately, Tamal Krishna's group prevailed, and the bullock cart ride was canceled. So, as time went on, many devotees were coming from the West. Many people who really admired Prabhupada were coming to see Prabhupada. And on November 14th, I remember waking up very early and going and chanting for Srila Prabhupada around 3:30 a.m. before Mangal Arti. And there was Jayadvaita Maharaj, Bhakti Chu Maharaj, and a devotee from, godbrother from Los Angeles, Bardraj, the famous artist, and myself. And as we were chanting, Prabhupada kept trying to tell us something. He's trying to say something, and his arms were going back and forth, waving around. Perhaps it was a symptom of ecstasy. And they were trying to hear what Prabhupada was trying to tell us, but we couldn't make it out. Jayadvaita and Bhakti Chu Maharaj couldn't make out what Prabhupada was trying to say. So they sat Prabhupada up. And seeing Prabhupada's condition, it brought to mind Bhishmadev lying on the battlefield full of arrows. Prabhupada's body was completely attacked by disease and old age. And it was very shocking to see Prabhupada in that condition. So around 1 o'clock, while we were having prasadam, the Kaviraj sent a message that Prabhupada would leave this world around 7:20. He was quite accurate. Maybe I'm missing by a minute or two. So we all ran into Prabhupada's room, about 200 or 300, I'm not sure. Many of us, we all ran into Srila Prabhupada's bedroom. Prabhupada was lying there. His eyes were closed. And we all started chanting, singing the Prabhupada tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this went on for hours, just chanting to Srila Prabhupada. Oh, I'm sorry. And of course, we were all very emotional. We were experiencing a lot of emotional trauma, feeling very despondent. What will happen when Srila Prabhupada leaves? Is the movement going to survive? But we kept chanting and chanting for Srila Prabhupada. And then around 7:20, of course, Yadubar Prabhu and Vishaka, they were filming the whole episode that was going on. And right at that time, as we were chanting, Srila Prabhupada opened his mouth and said, Hare Krishna, and left this material world, went to Krishna, in the arms of Krishna. And then all pandemonium broke loose. Devotees were lying on the ground crying. Some, even sannyasis, some devotees were screaming, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. So Jayadvaita Maharaj told us, everyone leave. So we all left Prabhupada's room and we assembled outside the Krishna Balaram guest house, outside Prabhupada's room, front door. And my GBC member, Jagadish Prabhu, he was in charge of digging Prabhupada's samadhi. Vrindavan was just a little village. There was no asphalt roads there. There was no construction machines to dig Prabhupada's samadhi. So Jagadish was asking volunteers, we need volunteers to dig Srila Prabhupada's samadhi. So being a young brahmachari, my hand shot up. I said, I'll dig Prabhupada's Samadhi. And my god brother, Abhinanda Prabhu from Seattle, Washington, and one other god brother, Pita Das from Los Angeles, they also volunteered. So we were given hand tools, shovels. Jagadish sent Abhinanda and Pita down to Loy Bazaar to buy many, many flowers for Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. At that time, it was about 8 o'clock when we started digging. All the members of Gaudiya Math, all Prabhupada's god brothers, god nephews, god cousins, they all came and they were chanting to Srila Prabhupada. His body, his form was on the Vyasasan in a palanquin in the temple, the Krishna Balaram temple. So it went on all night that his disciples and his god brothers were chanting bhajans and kirtan for Srila Prabhupada. And we continued digging Prabhupada's Samadhi until about 6 o'clock in the morning. After which, it was organized that we would take Srila Prabhupada to all the 7 prominent temples of Vrindavan with a big kirtan. So we took Srila Prabhupada on the palanquin, and with all the devotees chanting, many of the leaders, Prabhupada's generals were there, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Bhavananda, Hamsaduta, many devotees were there, and we were all on this kirtan, visiting the prominent temples of Vrindavan. When we got to the Radha Damodar temple, where Prabhupada was living before he came to the West, Rupa Goswami had inspired Srila Prabhupada. Rupa Goswami's Samadhi and his Bhajan Kutir was there. That was the temple of Jiva Goswami. So Srila Prabhupada, before coming to the West, he became inspired by Rupa Goswami, the father of Bhakti, to go to the West by the order of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So when we got to this temple, so many of Prabhupada's disciples, senior disciples, leaders, just broke down and started crying, just tears of love for Srila Prabhupada, the great impossible miracle that he had accomplished. It started here at the Radha Damodar temple, inspired by Lord Chaitanya's great devotees, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. So like that, we took Srila Prabhupada, and then we came back, and Prabhupada's body was being entered down into the Samadhi, and Narayan Maharaj was the master of ceremonies, and he was conducting the entire ceremony, the rituals and so on for Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And when he was asked to speak, the first thing he said was, Kali Kalera Namarupa, Krishna Shakti Vinanahi Tara Pravartana. Kali Kalera Dam Harinam Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti Vinanahi. Narayan Maharaj was glorifying that Srila Prabhupada was empowered as a Shaktavesh avatar to take this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the countries of the Malechas and Yavanas, to the hostile parts of the world, where people have no idea who is Krishna and what are the holy names. And so it was such a great and wonderful ceremony that Srila Prabhupada was remembered in such a great way. All his accomplishments, his purports to his books that he translated every night, all of this came to fruition. And Srila Prabhupada was quite convinced that his movement was in good hands and would carry on and expand for the next 10,000 years. So Srila Prabhupada ki. All glories to the devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Kripanidhi.